Hybrid work has disrupted team collaboration, with over half of Singapore's leaders now spending more than 3 hours daily in virtual meetings. To discuss this, we have Associate Professor Trevor Yu from NTU Singapore, Ricky Kapoor from Zoom, and Janhan Q from Unispace Asia. So starting with Ricky, what else has changed in team collaboration since the rise of hybrid work setups?
Recently, in a morning consult survey that we commissioned, we found that nearly half of Singapore leaders, 45% actually, spend at least 1 hour a day catching up on overdue tasks. And, a lot of this work, repetitive work, can be automated using AI, artificial intelligence, so that time can be freed up to work on things that matter more. Collaboration with colleagues, meaningful strategic work. So the same Morning Consult report found that Singapore leaders came in third globally in terms of AI usage, with about 37%. So, you know, there's a lot of AI usage happening in Singapore. And so that's just a reflection that automation of repetitive tasks, duplication work is probably an area where people are focusing a lot of their energy today.
Well, there's a lot of both combinations of asynchronous and synchronous work. So you would see a lot of collaboration that takes place via, the online collaboration tools, and that can take place either in real time or teams are also getting much used to collaborating it at different times in their own time zones and at their own convenience.
First of all, the size of meetings are very much different now. We are seeing more smaller collaboration in smaller groups, right, being the primary form of collaboration. Right. Second, we also do see a change in frequency of collaboration. Right. In today's world, we are seeing more frequent collaborations happening online and offline, right, compared to before, where it's slightly more structured. And also, I think from a perspective of hybrid work setups, right? Today's environment are slightly different from the ones before. We are becoming more selective in who we want to sit with in the office.
But why do Singapore leaders face more task delays than their Asia Pacific counterparts? Is there anything that we are doing wrong?
So this report actually did find that 62% of Singapore leaders said that they're overwhelmed by the amount of tools and applications they needed to keep using and switching. And I guess the toggle tax was probably one of the big concerns. Now, this is higher. The 62% is higher than the Asia Pacific average of 59% of leaders who shared the same. So we are seeing that. We are certainly seeing a higher concern on this toggle tax from Singapore leaders. And, a few areas where it came out in the report was, difficulty in finding time on their own schedules. That was 85%. Difficulty in finding times on other people's schedule. That was also 85%. And actually not finding enough time between meetings to get things done. And really, this is kind of an area that we find that automation using AI can help. So we're starting to see now, if you start adopting a single platform rather than multiple platforms, it helps you with the use of AI to automate many of the tasks. When you think about the number of interactions that are happening on one collaboration platform.
Well, I will state up front that I am not aware that Singapore leaders are necessarily being more challenged or behind their APAC counterparts. But if there are additional challenges, then that will be associated with, I think, the challenging of the current communication lines or communication norms that take place within the Singapore workplace. For instance, the switch between a predominantly face-to-face collaborative environment to one that's more online and one that combines both synchronous and asynchronous types of work behaviors could be a hurdle that several leaders may find challenging to begin with.
So for our report, we noted that the leadership team, which consists of mostly of Gen X and millennials, and also the baby boomers, we tend to want to be in the office a lot more, right? As we feel that the top reason for being in the office, it allows me to collaborate face to face more easier as compared to a virtual environment. But when we look at the behaviors of Gen Zs, right, we see that socialization and learning and development are the top reasons why we come to the office. So we see that there is a big mismatch in our work styles. Right? The older generation would prefer to come in the office a lot more for functional work reasons, whereas the younger generation would want to come in for socialization, learning and development. Right? So I think from that perspective, right, it's not more on uh, inefficiencies, but rather differences in management styles.
And so, to address this, how can firms bridge generational communication gaps in hybrid teams?
Well, I think it all begins with the setting of communication norms within the firm. Uh, Specifically, it has to have an agreement among usually top leadership first about what are the correct lines of channels, what uh, what direction the communication takes place, and what role the leader does or has to set the tone in such communications. So a lot of thought, I think, has to be put into understanding what the firm culture is, what the current firm culture is with regards to collaboration and how people should communicate with each other, what kind of norms should be endorsed, what kinds of behaviors should be emphasized.
Yeah, look, I agree with Trevor that organizations need to agree and align on communication norms. Let me double click a little bit on the generational gaps, I guess. For the first time today in the workforce, we're seeing 5 different generations working side by side. And really, each generation has its own way of connecting, communicating, collaborating, both in terms of style and format. What our morning consult survey found was that baby boomer leaders strongly preferred in person meetings, while Gen Z leaders, their favorite method of collaboration was interestingly project management software. Now, this distinction is superbly important, right? I mean, to understanding workplace dynamics. By next year, Gen Z leaders will comprise a quarter of the region's population and 27% of its workforce. So we need to understand the preference in terms of format. When it comes to communication style, we find that younger employees thrive on recognition and love connecting through social platforms. On the other hand, older employees often value more structured, more formal training, more top-down communication. So we've really got to understand the preferences of each generation and provide the right employee engagement platforms that can meet the natural style for each generation.
So first of all, we want to build understanding. Right. Second, we want to design spaces that create opportunities for different groups of people across different generations, across different departments to mingle with one another. Right. So the more that we can create opportunities to foster interactions between these different groups, right, the easier it is we will be in bridging these gaps. I think for some examples, we've heard cases where some managers uh, we do tend to have the bad habit of scheduling meetings just by a physical venue, right? Not by making it a hybrid meeting. So small things like that. I think as leaders, we need to be trained in meeting etiquettes, right? In adapting to the work styles of the younger generation. And as for the younger generation, we need to acknowledge that there are differences in work styles, right? We can be more adaptive in the way that we engage and collaborate as a team.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Trevor, Ricky, and Janhan.
Thank
My
you.
pleasure. Thank you so much.
Once again, those were Associate Professor Trevor Yu from the Division of Leadership, Management, and Organization of Nanyang Business School, NTU Singapore, Ricky Kapoor, Head of Asia Pacific at Zoom, and Janhan Kyu, Principal for Strategy at Unispace Asia. For more news, visit sbr.com.sg.